2-week hiatus here, but we are back. This is January 8th, 2013. We are calling this the legislative session day of the County Council of Cecil County. We are in open session at 9 a.m. I ask that if you have a cell phone, that you please turn it off or put it on vibrate. And we'll start the meeting with the approval of the minutes. The council has had an opportunity to review the minutes. They are in their packet. I have a motion on the floor from Councilman McCarthy for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion?
I would request that we amend page 2, first, second, third, fourth, fifth paragraph down. Members of the council provided their comments regarding it says approved, I would say administratively submitted tier map.
We have a motion on the floor for an amendment. Is there a second to that amendment to the minutes? Page 2, it's in section 1 in your book, page 2, fifth paragraph down under tier map briefing. Just the third paragraph under that heading regarding the approved tier map. There's an amendment regarding the administratively submitted, yes, tier map.
I'll second that.
There is a first and second on the floor for the amendment. This is a vote on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment is approved. There's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. Is there any other discussion on the minutes as a whole? Being no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion to approve the minute carries. Second on your agenda was consideration for council president and vice president. This was put on the agenda in anticipation that we may have had of the appointment of the District 2 council seat. We do not have that appointment yet. What is the pleasure of the council? Do you want to just proceed to the next item 4?
I would suggest we proceed to the next item.
I'd only ask if there's a reconsideration of the council on a temporary president until such time as the appointment is made.
Is there a reconsideration for the consideration of the 3 names proposed by the
No. This is a consideration for council president.
Well, that's my answer then.
Oh, you say it's conditional.
This isn't Jeopardy.
Yes.
Vicki, let's move on.
Okay, so,
Question.
if they're okay for a question, we'll move through to question 4. The item 4 on the agenda.
That's fine.
Is that okay? Everyone in agreement?
Yeah.
Okay, item 4, introduction and discussion, consideration of appointments from county executive. I handed out to you this morning a consideration of appointments, kind of a timeline and from the charter of the consideration of appointments as defined in the charter. And I hope I outlined all of that correctly. Get a copy. Jason, now, if you don't mind, for him to review. So what you have in your packet is what was submitted from the county executive office for consideration of appointments. And you have a timeline there under the, you have Director of Administration, Alfred C. Wine Jr. You have the Director of Finance, Winston Robinson. You have for County Attorney, Jason Allison. So I guess we are opening that up for discussion.
Okay, I just wanted to repeat my concern about being able to review the disclosure statement from Mr. Wine, and I guess that would be for Mr. Allison as well. We did get an opinion from the Ethics Commission that it's reasonable. This is a new process for us for the confirmation that it would be reasonable to request that sort of document as part of the confirmation process. I appreciate, Mr. Wine has told me he has submitted the disclosure statement to the ethics board. I would just like to have a copy of that to review.
I don't think that it's necessary for the council to review the ethics disclosure forms. I don't believe that, number one, we're qualified to evaluate those forms to determine whether there's any conflict of interest. Number two, I don't think it's any of our business. And number three is that I think the responsibility lays with the executive and the ethics commission to do that research on whether or not the appointments are qualified and have any potential conflict of interest. And therefore, I don't think it needs to be a condition of appointment for ethics disclosure forms to be submitted to the council members for their evaluation. In addition, I think the ethics form allows for the disclosure forms to be submitted within 30 days after appointment. So I think that what we're asking for is something that's not required by the ethics code for disclosure prior to employment or appointment.
Councilman Hodge, would you be opposed to my requesting it? You don't?
No, I don't have a problem. If you personally,
Okay.
if Councilman Broomall wants to snoop through somebody's ethics disclosure forms, then you are free to do that. But I don't think it's necessary for the council or every council member to do that. So you, as any citizen, can ask for a disclosure form. Any citizen can. And you can too. So if you want to do that, go ahead and help yourself.
Okay. Councilman Hodge, I just think it is an important process, or important part of the process in showing where your allegiances lie. Is it conclusive? No, but it does paint a picture, and which is why each one of us had to disclose when we were running for office. We had to provide a campaign disclosure. This is probably why I will not be voting to confirm Mr. Allison. He was chairman of the Ethics Commission, and he didn't believe that it was important for attorneys to provide disclosure for the short form, even though the attorneys up until that time had to provide disclosure. Ethics is very important to me. I believe there should be a process in place, a structure in place for checks and balances, and I think we should utilize what we have, the tools.
And I believe there is a structure. There is ethics code. There is a process, and I just don't think that the council members are the people that need to do the analysis. I think that we have an ethics board, and that's their job. And I would support them doing their job rather than us overseeing the executive, overseeing the ethics board. I mean, what are we just going to oversee everyone's job?
Councilman Hodge, I think you've forgotten the Ethics Commission has said that the public is an important part of the process in scrutinizing those records, and that if they saw a conflict of interest, it's up to them to bring the complaint to the Ethics Commission. So I think you're misrepresenting how the process works.
May I say something, please?
Yes.
In the case of Mr. Alfred Wine, he's been here for 22 years. He's given me very loyal and faithful service. Winston Robinson is newly appointed, or basically is being offered up as an appointment, has provided loyal service to this county on many occasions previously, and Jason Allison has done the same also. I truly believe that most people are convicted felons or misdemeanor types of people. I do not think that you need to basically pick through their laundry closet for the stuff that you want.
Mr. Councilman McCarthy, for me to review their disclosure statement, I feel I'm just doing my job.
You've had the
Then-
opportunity to.
don't interrupt, please.
I'm sorry, don't interrupt me.
Like,
Let me know when you're done talking.
Can I jump in?
Could you give me 3 good reasons why you would insist on this?
this is an introduction and discussion. This is introduction and discussion at the council work session meeting, hopefully with the intent to put this on for consideration at
Vicki,
the
that's
evening-
exactly-
at an evening legislative meeting at your next meeting on
And
January
I
15th.
think that will allow ample time to review any disclosures or also to allow public comment. I think Robinson and Allison were put in after, our last, meeting on the 18th. So I would be fine with putting that on for, is it the 15th?
Yes, that would be at your next
Okay.
evening legislative day session on January 15th, your evening meeting at 7 p.m. for
Fair.
action.
All right, fair enough.
Right, there was no intention to vote on this today. I think.
No.
But,
This is for us to understand who is being appointed and for us to individually or collectively, if we choose, to ask for additional information or interviews or anything that we want so that we feel comfortable that these are going to be the most qualified people to serve the county's needs going forward.
Exactly, and I wanted to clarify that I'm not accusing anyone of wrongdoing. It's my job to follow up on the process.
Okay. Other than ethics disclosure forms, is there any other information that we want from any of these individuals or any questions that we might have? Or do we want to schedule interviews or are we okay?
At this time, I can't think of anything else, but wouldn't want to not take off the table an interview at a later date.
Agreed.
Okay. Everyone, is there any further discussion on this? I think we've come to the agreement that this will be placed on the January 15th evening meeting agenda for consideration.
That's fine.
And everyone at their own time can gather the information that they need. Okay, any further discussion on that? We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is introduction and discussion, consideration of requests from the acting council attorney Jason Allison for special legal counsel.
Thank you, good morning. To please the council, I have 2 requests this morning. I've got letters that I'll be passing up related to both requests. They're separate requests for the appointment of special legal counsel. One, to provide advice and legal services relating to appointments. The second, to provide legal services to the Cecil County Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm going to pass. I'll begin with special counsel for legal services relating to appointments. In accordance with section 411 of the charter, I would respectfully request that the council approve the appointment of Virginia Barnhart Esquire in the firm of Trader Pope and Hughes, PA, as special legal counsel to Cecil County government and its officials and appointees as needed to provide advice and legal services relating to appointments. As I'm sure you may be aware, there are potential conflicts related to appointments that could arise in my capacity as a county attorney. Such potential conflicts include but are not necessarily limited to defensive litigation with respect to matters on which I have provided advice or on which clients within Cecil County government have taken different positions. In light of the potential for such conflicts, I think it's necessary and appropriate for the County Council of Cecil County to employ aforementioned special legal counsel. This is particularly the case in that one could anticipate potential litigation relating to the appointment process, to include the rapid fire count for temporary restraining order, which would require counsel to be ready within a day's notice to go in and defend the lawsuit. Because of the requirements for this counsel to act in making an appointment, the need for transparency, the need for following the proper procedures, and making an appointment with special legal counsel at my request, it may not be feasible to appoint somebody in time to defend the matter at issue in the circuit court. In that respect, I would respectfully suggest that the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, applies here, and having special counsel pre-approved and ready to go if needed is the way to move forward. It would also prevent my office from being placed in the untenable position of being in a potential conflict and confronted with a time-sensitive defense matter. I have submitted with the cover letter a proposed engagement agreement from Trainer Post Hughes from Virginia Barnhart, which sets forth specific terms of the engagement, including the proposed hourly rate. The good news is that if unnecessary, there's no fees accruing. If necessary, then the terms of the engagement would apply. The engagement agreement would apply. I think this is a matter of tremendous importance, and I would urge this body to please take action on this and approve the appointment of special counsel to stand by in the event that there is an action or actions that come forth in the near future.
Attorney Allison, are you proposing that we approve this morning?
No, I'm not asking that you take this this morning for introduction and then place it on the agenda at your meeting next Wednesday evening for action. And I believe Ms. Barnhart.
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
15th.
Correct. I think Ms. Barnhart actually will be here for the work session, so that you have an opportunity to meet her and ask her questions and things of that nature next Tuesday morning. The second matter relates to the Cecil County Board of Zoning Appeals. As you may know, I have sat and at this point continue to sit as counsel to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I think it would be appropriate, consistent with the county's past treatment of that position, for a successor to myself to be appointed, and I'm respectfully recommending to council the appointment, the approval of the appointment of Cameron Brown Esquire of the firm Claire Campbell LLC. You may be familiar with Ms. Campbell's firm. Currently it serves as counsel to the Cecil County Planning Commission. Mr. Brown is a Cecil County resident. I believe he grew up here. I know him to be articulate, smart, diligent, familiar with the Cecil County zoning ordinance through his work as an attorney with Claire Campbell LLC and the Planning Commission, as well as through his service as substitute counsel to me when I've had conflicts or a need to be absent from Board of Appeals meetings. And he also currently represents the county as co-counsel in New York Building Products Incorporated litigation in the circuit court, which is a fairly complex matter, and I think he's acquitted himself quite well. In that case, from everything I can gather, I think he'd be a tremendous asset to the county and to public service. Unfortunately, I do not have a vitae for him to attach to this, but I think the firm he works with is well known, and I'd be happy to obtain a vitae for him upon request.
Yes, I would like to request that.
Okay. And again, I ask that this be introduced today and considered at the legislative session next Tuesday evening, for action.
Any
Mr.
other questions?
Mr. Alice, just a question. Regarding these council appointment or authorization to hire these council for special purposes, is it better to specifically mention a specific name or a law firm? Let's assume that on the court date that York Building Products comes up again and Mr. Cameron Brown is not available. And someone, would they be able to substitute for him?
I'm actually in the process of substituting for Norman Wilson, so.
So my point is, would it be better to select a firm or a specific council? With the intention, if we hire the firm, that we pretty much know who we're getting, but there may be conflicts on scheduling or some other reason that that particular person could not do the job for that day or that week or what have you, and they would have coverage in that firm.
I think that's a good question, and I'd respond by saying that as with the Trader Pope and Hughes engagement agreement, I think it would be the firm of Claire Campbell LLC, with the idea that they would assign Cameron Brown as the lead for the Board of Appeals. So the engagement would be with the firm rather than with the individual.
I could see this becoming an issue when the county is under the understanding they're hiring a certain attorney with their accreditations and their experience and track record, and that person might be in demand, and you're actually getting someone else from that law firm. So I can understand certain instances where that person would have to be replaced, but I think it's in our best interest to name a certain attorney in the agreement.
I think that's a matter for the council to decide. There's no legal requirement either way. I suggest when you retain the firm, you do run the risk of having somebody else show up, but at the same time, you do get the full portfolio of cases. I know that Claire represents the Planning Commission, and Victor Jackson here represents planning and zoning and permits and inspections and enforcement cases. So I think that any one of the three of the attorneys there are pretty familiar with the code. But again, that's a decision for your client.
Well, you bring up a good point that we really should look at how many attorneys are on the law firm as well.
And there's three there.
Is there any further discussion from the council?
I would also request that their short form disclosures be provided, knowing that they don't have to, but I'm requesting. If they were appointed, they would have to fill out the disclosure form within 30 days. Anyway.
Okay. You have your request.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we will, this will be on the January 15th evening meeting agenda for consideration by the board. Okay. Next on your agenda is discussion, procedure for appointments to Animal Care and Control Oversight Committee, County Code, Chapter 142, Section 2, and Acting Director of Administration. Mr. Juan?
Morning, Council. As the Council is aware, January 1st, A Buddy for Life commenced their new contract with the county as far as animal care and control throughout Cecil County. So they are operating under that contract currently. As you may remember, there was a provision in Chapter 142, previously Chapter 209, which called for the creation of an Animal Care and Control Oversight Committee, whereby there would be a representative from each council district. The county executive has asked us to come forward this morning to propose a process which will allow the council to look at applications and provide recommendations back to the executive so she can look at those recommendations and, come back with an appointment, for, confirmation by the council. We've advertised, we've gone ahead and advertised, on our website, with a deadline of January 18th to receive those applications. Katie should have provided you with, some, the ones within your district that we've already received, and we will, continue to get them, pass them on to you as we receive them. The executive is requesting that, we get recommendations from the council, by, January 25th, if that's possible. And, hopefully we'd be able to, get this slated on your, February 5th council agenda for, to get that process rolling. Just a little bit about the oversight committee. They're supposed to meet quarterly. They basically review oversee the contract provisions, with the vendor, Buddy Fly, and, they have some other duties that, as far as oversight. And I would imagine that staff, the county will be staffing that committee to some extent. And Jason, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just, in looking at this, it seems that, the appointment authority falls under section 412 of the charter, regarding executive appointment. Noting, of course, that under section 142.2 of the code, this group does, issue some reports and recommendations, directly to the council. I was not able to see it as being, a commission that was set up exclusively for the council. So, the executive is proceeding, with appointment under section 412. And from what I can discern, it seems that, as each of you probably will know, qualified and interested, potential appointees from your districts, the executive has asked, as Al mentioned, if you please kindly provide, some names or name, of individuals or an individual that you would like to see, considered for appointment, with then the appointments coming back to you for confirmation.
Attorney Allison, could you give me an example of a council exclusive committee?
I'll give you an example.
I can. If the council decides that they want to do some research on an issue, they can appoint a committee to report back to the council on some specific subject matter that you may choose, anything at all. Pick a subject matter that we would want to know something about. Or if we wanted to get a committee together to make recommendations on how to improve something, and we could form a committee that would report to us, and they would have a limited life to answer specific questions or make recommendations to us.
I would assume that would be a subcommittee of the council. Okay.
And the subcommittee of the council, we do not have to get approval of the executive. We don't have to get she doesn't have to appoint that group. We can do it all within our own internal framework.
I'm just not entirely convinced that this is not a council or a committee that the council would be appointing exclusively to. I understand the executive's argument, but may want to redress this later.
Well, I think that the charter is perfectly clear on this issue, in my opinion, and I also believe strongly that the performance of the vendor that provides animal control services to the county is under the control of the executive. And if that contractor doesn't perform adequately, it's up to the executive to terminate the contract, modify the contract, or extend that contract. And therefore, we as the council members have no control over that contract implementation or oversight. We do have control to some level over the ordinance itself. We can, if we choose, rewrite the ordinance. But, it's up to, that committee, the oversight committee, in my mind, even though they may report to the council, but they would also, the implementation of their suggestions is up to the executive.
Well, and that was the perspective I was coming from, that part of their duties are to listen to complaints from the public, and that we should be engaged in future legislation we may want to adopt to address those complaints. So.
We certainly can be.
I would also respectfully point you to section 104B of the charter. Throughout section 142.2 of the Cecil County Code, the Animal Control Ordinance refers to Cecil County members of Cecil County government, which is under section 104B of the charter, a fairly broadly defined term, almost exclusively within the purview of the executive branch. There's really nothing on the face of section 142 of the code that would suggest that this is a body that's established exclusively for the council. In addition, the charter prohibits the council from establishing standing committees. They have to have some life term. So.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion on this matter? We have the timeline outlined, the deadline from the council, the deadline for applications to the county executive office is January 18th. They are looking for a deadline from council for consideration of their appointments by January 25th, for this to be on the February 5th legislative meeting of the council. So that would be the timeline. Moving on to the next item, the FY 2013 legislative initiative letter revisions. You have a copy in your binder of the proposed legislative letter that came through at a previous work session meeting. And you have options, the first one being an addendum, and then taking that and wording it for inside, for inclusion in the letter under option 2 and option 3, to move this letter forward to the state. So that is open for discussion.
I would like to propose that we remove the last sentence with respect to concerns raised regarding interstate drug prescription monitoring and other drug-related matters. We appreciate your willingness to assist us with attacking this problem area in our county, and replace it with the council also is requesting that opioid maintenance therapy programs be consistent with the same standards as a certified ASAM, which is American Society of Addiction Medicine, level of treatment with respect to counselor-patient ratio, counseling sessions, and urinalysis testing, and then to refer to the addendum. Jack Buraker did a great job in pointing out the inconsistencies between ASAM level of treatment and the exception given to opioid maintenance therapy. I think it's going to be more effective drug treatment. This has to be done on a state level. I know it's going to be difficult to get this through, but it's a start. And hopefully it will at least open up the door to a discussion with the state.
Councilwoman Brunel has presented her addendum to the legislative request letter. I'm opening this up for discussion by the council.
I move to include the amendments to the letter and finalize it for final approval and signature.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Hodge to approve the amendment as presented and to move this letter forward to the legislation. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Councilman McCarthy. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we will, I will get that exact language to, you, Mr. Wine, and the agenda. Very good. Next on the agenda, we have the discussion of the proposed council rules of procedure. Again, that was added with the anticipation of having the fifth council member. Does the council just want to proceed and to the next item?
I'd like to just put out some food for thought. I had brought up previously adding something about a standard of decorum. And while I don't want to take anyone's First Amendment rights away, I fully see the benefit of being able to come to a county county council meeting and voicing your concerns. I think it needs to be done in a standard that is professional, and we've had a lot of complaints from those attending the meetings about the behavior of some of those that are testifying. And this is just a recommended statement that we could add under Chapter 3, Item 3-6, Public Participation at Meetings, under Item F, after the second sentence.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 8.
It would be page 8 of the council rules.
Council Rules of Procedure.
Page 8, what paragraph?
Paragraph F, after the second sentence, include any person making threatening, slanderous, or obscene remarks will be asked to leave the meeting.
Well,
So we're just requesting that be added as part of the proposed rules, and
Yes.
these have not obviously been adopted, so.
As a part of the draft.
Just a part,
Yeah.
just asking for that to be added as a part of the draft. Which will be under, up for all consideration again, once this moves forward.
I'd like to put it in writing for my review before I'm going to make a commitment on it, but I have to tell you that, in my opinion, the council members themselves need to set a better example on decorum and behavior. I have seen recently, and I'm going to say last year, that some of our council members, and I may have crossed the line myself from time to time, but I think that we need to set an example and hold all of us more responsible, more respectful of each other and of the public. So I don't want to blame the citizens any more than ourselves for some of the bad behavior that's been happening over the last year or so.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I think
I'd
it's
be
good
very
to have-
cautious about making this
Yes.
a one-way street.
No, I agree, the council should be the example, and there's certain standards that implemented and used as guidance is going to help keep civility.
So my
In-
comment.
hold on, don't interrupt now. Give me the floor. I see the benefit of having the standards put in, but I acknowledge also that we're gonna have to be very careful about how each one of these things are defined. Threatening might have to be further defined, as well as obscene. So, that could be open to interpretation and used against certain people testifying, just for the benefit of trying to control free speech.
Well, I'll be happy to look at whatever you want to consider. I'd like you to put it in writing, but I guess my point is that the council members need to be held to the same standards or greater standards than the public.
No argument.
Well, this will certainly be up for discussion.
The second,
At another time, so.
Okay.
I guess you can comment out.
Forward the language that I'm proposing,
Okay.
and I'm open to any other suggestions as well.
is this what you're proposing?
At this time, yes.
Just
Verb.
as an inclusion, yes, but the whole entire document has not been vetted or discussed at length at this time.
I understand.
Okay?
Is the floor still open?
Yes.
Yes.
You insinuated that some of these things described in paragraph F taken place. I don't know that they have. It says, as guests, persons may not engage in any conduct that interferes with the rights of anyone to attend the meeting. I cannot say that I've ever seen that.
Councilman McCarthy, I didn't propose that.
I thought, I'm saying that you're asking for something more respectful, are you not? Is that not what you said?
Okay, the first sentence, I didn't put that in. That was a draft that was already,
Okay.
If this is in the extreme draft form at this point in time.
Well, I don't say that I've seen the conduct that she's referring to. And who are the people that register these complaints, might I ask?
it was our security officer as well as, well, I don't wanna, I'll tell you the citizens' names after the meeting.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? We'll move on to the next item. This is discussion on your FY 2014 budget hearing schedule. You have in your packet a form that was forwarded by our budget manager, Mr. Weiser, regarding the operating budget development schedule. And there are some dates, obviously, and there's a different timeline and a different process. I will let Budget Manager Weiser, do you want to just kind of go over that timeline with the council? What they're looking at?
Keeping in mind that we've been going through a transition process, I developed the schedule with that in mind. The executive's responsibility is to submit a proposed budget and capital improvement program to the council no later than March 1. Admittedly, my understanding as to how the council would like to review, meet with submitting agencies, departments, or with the executive at any point after that is unknown to me at this time. But I would say that, you know, we're certainly speaking on behalf of the executive side, willing to provide any input to assist in elaborating on those budget submissions following the submission to the council.
Friday, March 1st, 2013 is a Friday, obviously, and what I provide for you is the schedule. It shows your budget work sessions that you did for the FY 2013 budget. So I guess we're looking for some guidance as to how you want to proceed with this process.
I guess it's important to note that the significant difference between all previous operating budget development schedules and this one is that those work sessions, as stated, were all still during, I guess you could call it a budget development process where everything is still kind of open to suggestion and free flowing up until the date of introduction and adoption during May. In this capacity, what you will have is a document coming from the executive side that will be, at least at that point, a static document that the council will have the ability to take certain actions pursuant to the charter after that. But I guess, at least from my perspective, the agencies that are submitting budget requests will certainly present information as to how their budgets were developed, what makes them up, priorities, all of those types of things as the council sees fit.
So this is after the fact, the static document, the only thing that we can propose is to remove items. We can't add to.
Pursuant to the charter, correct. I believe you may reinstate public schools budget up to a requested level in accordance with state annotated code, but absent that, I believe the actions of the council are to reduce.
And there's no opportunity to change the timeline to where we can meet with the departments prior to the adoption of the executive's proposed budget.
Well, there's certainly nothing precluding you from setting up those meetings as you to the extent that there's anything to actually discuss, that's all information is, a work in progress. That's strictly at your discretion, and I guess it's an exception of the executive.
I would suggest that it's in our benefit to have these discussions before, not after the executive presents her proposed budget. Any discussion?
Any discussion on if that's,
Look at the calendar, we'll check it out.
I mean, if I may,
Condensed
if I may be so bold as to talk a little bit about the process, from my perspective as budget manager, we've provided direction to the departments to, we're obviously working on it as we speak, have some documentation provided back to us for development, compilation, and analysis by February 1. From February 1 through March 1, at least from my perspective, it will be a process that myself and many others will be undertaking to combine all that information, data entry, analysis, and the like. So at least at that point, the finished product that you may see by March 1 may be something completely different than what we may see as of February 1, but to the extent that the department will discuss some of the major topics that may be in their budget, I can't see a reason why they wouldn't do that other than the fact that what you see March 1 may be dramatically different.
I think I can understand Councilman Brumel's concern that by the time we see the, I'm going to call it the final draft on about March 1st, we will no longer be able to add our pet projects into the budget or our priority projects if we desire. At the end of the day, we can remove things. But I see some benefit for us to see a preliminary draft sometime before March 1st that we can raise some concerns and have a little negotiation with the executive if there's some priority that we would like to see salvaged or saved. Unless you feel that there's plenty of negotiation time after the final the final draft.
Yeah, what,
Do you think the executive would negotiate with the council on the final budget?
We'll talk to the executive about the possibility of some discussion prior to March 1st relating to the budget.
okay, would you like, I guess you would like to have something, a request in writing from the council to that effect, or?
Yes, I think that's where
They're exactly looking for?
we don't want to go to the end of March 1st and not have an ability to affect the council's priorities, whatever they may be.
well,
So if the executive is willing to work with us on the budget, then we would like to have that ability, we can do that afterwards. Otherwise, we need some time between just before the end of March. Now, obviously, we know that the executive and the finance department is going to be actively working on the budget, and I don't know that we want to get involved in those inner workings and the final draft, but we certainly would like to see the final draft and give us a preliminary review before it becomes effective on March 1st.
Based on, and I'm sure you can appreciate this, Councilman, even prior to initiating the going into the transition, one must admit that from the executive's perspective and from my perspective, this is the shortest and tightest budget development window that we've encountered.
Right.
And appreciating that. There's actually nothing precluding you from setting up your meetings, and there's absolutely nothing precluding you from providing your budgetary requests or suggestions prior to having a document to react to, based on your intimate knowledge of budgets as they've previously been developed.
what's driving my concern isn't pet projects I may have. It's giving the ability to the public to be a part of the process in developing the budget. So somewhere along the line, I would like the public to be able to come in prior to the executive adopting her draft, to be able to respond or voice their concerns as to the direction that they believe the county executive is going in.
Well, I think we can allow that. If you look at your schedule here, the dates are not, so after the county executive comes up with a budget, we can have open public hearings to have departments make presentations on why they support the executive's budget or not.
That's after the.
After March 5th, after March 5th.
Yeah, and
March 1st.
that's after she has adopted her draft budget.
That's correct.
Craig, quick question, the issue of state funding now, the March 1st date occurs more than a month before Sonny died. Do you have an idea how you're gonna deal with that as far as, you know, I guess you'll have placeholders in the budget, or have you thought about it?
Not really any different than any other year. Even when we're in a position to adopt a budget the third week of May, many of those numbers aren't finite and not moving by then. Admittedly, it's early on in the process, but absent other changes to the charter and our process, we'll be dealing with that for the foreseeable future. Others do the same thing. We'll take our best shot at it, like always.
So other charter counties have the same timeline for adopting their budget?
If they had them, they have all changed them to have the dates that the executive presents to the council later on in the process. The most review of the most recent counties that have transitioned from commissioner form to charter form of government, those dates have been moved back as far as April 15 for submission. My expectation is that the charter board used the language that was in our code that indicated that from a period of March 1 through date of budget adoption, the commissioner sat as the Board of Estimates. That's how that came about. So the answer is yes, it is the shortest budget development time frame that we are aware of.
Administrator Wine, do you think it's a good suggestion to relook at that date?
Yes, we've talked about amending the charter at some point to push that date back to at least April 1st.
From the budget manager's perspective, that would be the first item that would be proffered for a charter amendment at such time in the future as we're allowed.
Oh, that has to be a charter amendment and can't be done legislatively. Okay, let's make a list.
Charter amendment.
Okay.
Okay. As far as the council goes, do we want to have public hearings where the department heads and other entities come forward before the council to, and this gives the department heads and the public the opportunity to explain their priorities?
Yes, that is definitely something I believe we should be doing, but it's just a matter of when we would be scheduling that, and it sounds like the time frame is extremely tight.
We have plenty of time after March 5th to do it during March 5th.
I don't want it after March 5th, I would like it prior to March 5th. Prior to March 1st.
But you don't have, you're not going to have anything to work off of unless, because it isn't finalized. You don't have the budget.
No, I understand that.
We'll have to look at the schedule, right, Vic?
Any other thoughts? I would like to get, if you're going to have budget public hearings where after March 1st, I understand your concern, but if that doesn't happen, do you want to get these on the schedule and on the books for the public, for these presentations to be made between March
Well, let's
1st
look at,
and before the final adoption?
let's look at the schedule and see if it's even possible. If the majority of the council believes it's not possible, then I'll just have to go with after March 1st.
So we want to send a request in writing then to the county executive?
Yes.
Is everyone in agreement with that?
I'm okay with, I don't have a set schedule, so I'm open for discussing the different options.
That would be prior to March 16th, requesting.
Okay, so I guess we can get something in writing to you, like I need to do. Okay. Next on the agenda is.
Before we leave that, I have to tell you that my choice word, my word selection when I said pet projects is not good. I didn't mean it really that way. I did really mean our priorities. And unfortunately, you know, what we should probably do is mention to our county executive what our priorities are so that she knows in advance of finalizing the budget that our priorities are covered. And I don't mean by pet projects, that's a bad choice of words, I apologize for using that. Not that we will be putting unnecessary, unimportant spending into the budget. That's not what my intention is at all.
Next on the agenda is council items. Councilman McCarthy.
I appreciate everybody coming today. Hopefully we'll have a productive and fruitful year here in Cecil County.
Councilman Hodge.
Last week, most all of the council members and the executive was in Cambridge, Maryland, attending the MACO Winter Conference, Maryland Association of Counties. There was many meetings and a lot of good information, and as always, a lot of networking opportunities to discuss with colleagues from other counties on the issues that they're facing, which quite frankly are pretty much the same things. No doubt that the TMDL efforts by the governor are a real problem for every county. And so it's something that took a lot of time and effort, and we talked about it a lot. I found it interesting that the governor blames the Environmental Protection Agency for forcing upon the state the efforts that they're forcing upon the counties. But when we met with 3 of the EPA directors from the different regions in the East Coast, they didn't seem to be as forceful and aggressive as our governor is. And they used the words flexibility and creativity and innovation, where our governor seems to be get it done right away at any cost and meet their deadlines. So there was a lot of frustration there, getting different messages from different authorities. But I think it was well worthwhile, but I almost said to myself, I'm not going back, because every session seems to be something new coming down the pipeline that's troublesome. And the new thing coming down is what they call offsets for growth. And let me explain what growth is. If you're a church, or a government, or a municipality, or a homeowner, or a business, or anybody that has any intentions of building anything, anywhere in Maryland, you're going to have to basically have a building system in place where you are not going to negatively impact the environment at all, net zero. Or you're going to have to pay for offsets, or you're going to have to trade for offsets. It's interesting that Frederick County has already done some preliminary evaluations and projections on basically what's been preliminary put out there, and it's very, very, very expensive. This is in addition to the efforts on the WIP plan. As we know, the WIP plan is going to cost the county at least $600 million. So this is basically accounting for growth, which is anything new, to build new construction. And I don't mean just houses, I mean businesses, I mean everybody doing anything is going to be even more expensive. And so the Maryland Department of Environment has been tasked for this year, 2013 to come up with a plan to implement accounting or offsets for growth. So I would encourage the citizens to watch that very carefully, because it's going to have a real impact on economic development and other efforts within Maryland. Something completely different. We as county commissioners were presented with the option to move forward with the expansion or upgrade, I really should say upgrade, of the Seneca Point wastewater treatment system before the form of government changed. And I can't remember why, but we postponed that decision. It will be back to the council. In the first step will be the agreement between the county and the construction manager to move forward. And I want to make sure that the county councilmen educate themselves on what's going on there, understand why we're doing what we're doing as far as the upgrades and expansion, and be prepared in the future for evaluating and making decisions on contracts or not, starting with the project manager contract, which I haven't reviewed it, but we're talking about millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars totaling in the 40 million range total after we're said and done. So we need to spend some time figuring out a strategy on how to move forward with this and the timeline that we want to do it. In my opinion, we don't have enough customers, ratepayers, in our Seneca Point waste treatment plant to spread the cost of that $40 million over in the near term. And somebody is going to be paying for that $40 million. Nobody has said that, and I will say this, yes, the state will come up with about $10 million for the Bay Restoration funds that we paid in. So that will reduce the cost somewhat. But what about the other $30 million? The question is, how are we going to pay for that? Are we just going to pile it on to the ratepayers, the current ratepayers? Are we going to spread it out over time? We better have a plan, and I'm a little bit concerned about jumping into this project blindly without having an overall plan. And I know that I've expressed my concern to the executive, and she said, well, put your questions, give me the questions. So I would encourage the councilmen that are here to start developing questions, unless you're just going to write a blank check and let her move forward with this project.
Councilman Hodge, I believe the reason we waited, we weren't getting clear answers from NDE. We were asking for if there was a possibility of changing the deadlines. And there were questions as to if we had to totally commit to the ENR, or if there were other remedies that we could apply that were less costly. So I believe we didn't get those answers.
I'd like to ask that we send a letter to the executive to have a work session with the executive and Public Works to go over this project again and develop a strategy that we can work together on moving forward.
Yeah, and I would like to see where we're at, what responses
Right,
they have gotten.
right,
I agree.
that's correct. There were questions that we raised as commissioners, and this to me is a big deal. This is probably one of the largest public works projects that we'll be doing, but at the end of the day, it's only a few people that are directly benefiting. Even though in the long term, I'll admit that this is a good thing for all of Cecil County. I don't want to mean to imply that it's a negative project. It has significant benefit, particularly about putting infrastructure in a growth area. We need more infrastructure. It just seems to be a little bit premature because of the state's requirement to upgrade. That's the only problem, is the timing of it. that bothers me. Any event, can we have a written request to have a work session with the executive and public works and others to try to find out where we are today and where we're going to go tomorrow?
I would support that.
Any other further discussion,
No.
support? Is there anything else? Councilman Hodge?
No, I'm done.
Okay, Councilman Dunn?
Sure, nothing. Thank you.
Councilwoman Brunel?
Well, Happy New Year to everybody. Hope you've got some good resolutions out there. Trying to stick to mine. As Robert described, Mako, it was very frustrating, to see it just seems that the Big Seven does have a grip on, the leanings of Mako. The legislative update, was no different, and it sounded like, Speaker Bush was going to start demanding that the rural counties, start, donating or, contributing their fair share, of the school funding, school board or school building funding. Not acknowledging how much we've already contributed, such as in the tolls for the projects that we'll never see, that are being diverted to the cities. It just seems that we're quite outnumbered, at Mako. At the discussions for, the nutrient offset, Shannon Moore from Frederick County, as, Councilman Hodge was, describing, she did a great job of showing the financial impact of this program. She took projects that have already been done and applied the nutrient offset cost and how much money those projects today would have costed. And it clearly showed a lot of those projects wouldn't have even come about, wouldn't have gotten started. I'm gonna forward that slideshow, she sent it to me, to our planning department. The TMDL Coalition and the Rural County Coalition also met. Very excited that the Rural County Coalition is now up to 10 members and the TMDL Coalition is up to 7, and that we're pooling our efforts. We're demanding that these policies adopted by the state of Maryland be based on real science. The EPA, as Robert was saying, that it seems that the EPA is not demanding the same stringent regulatory oversight as the state of Maryland is demanding. I was frustrated to hear the EPA didn't cover the state of Maryland, and they believe the dam is not failing, that it's not an issue with being a major contributor of pollution to the bay. I was hoping that we could interject in the FERC relicensing, that to demand that that be a part of their, it be contingent of them renewing their license, that this issue be addressed. Hopefully we can do that. Mako at least is a good place where you can air your grievances and your objections and network with other counties that feel the same way. So the Rural County Coalition now, we are promoting memberships across the state of Maryland, not just for counties, but for other businesses, entities that are being affected by these SB 236, Plan Maryland, all of these intrusion policies that the state is adopting. So with that, we'll see how our new year progresses.
Can I say one more thing about Mako? It is true that Speaker Bush was there talking about the future and so forth, and he had a slide presentation, and one of the slides was a slide where it had a chart of green and red. The green were those counties that have supported his agenda with higher taxes and more of a higher spending and more of a budget, and the red was those counties and those regions that had not supported his agenda, his budgets, and his spending. So, and he flat out, first of all, it really pissed me off that there was time and effort and money spent putting a slide together, determining who was supporting him and who was not. That really upset. Then he went on to further say, and he implied that if you want more money, if you want more funding, if you want this or that, he implied that you better start voting his way. In other words, you better start supporting his budget, his spending, his initiatives, and then you'll get more. And he was flat out said it. And to show that slide indicating who was with him and who wasn't, I mean, it was just thoroughly disgusting as far as I'm concerned.
Can I assume that you're on the wrong side?
I'm sorry, we Cecil County and the entire Eastern Shore, we're on the red side, that's true.
Well, you should try sitting with the Baltimore City and County Coalition. Listen
But
to their
it was interesting.
When Delegate O'Donnell is sharing our concerns.
He even reprimanded people in Montgomery County because generally they support the budget, but somebody there questioned him on why they weren't supporting mass transit to the same level. And he said, well, you don't all get your act yet. All he said was Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and Baltimore City, all you have to do is get every one of your delegation members together and you can get it. And he was reprimanding them because they weren't all for it.
And the special counsel for the governor said, just because it's not included doesn't mean it won't be at a later date.
Right.
For all intents and purposes, if the governor has Prince George's, Montgomery, Baltimore City, County, or Anne Arundel, he can just tell the rest of the state to go scratch.
The son calls what, a rogue county, so.
Yes.
Rogue.
Okay. That concludes the public portion of the county council meeting. You have a scheduled closed session at 11 a.m.